first step is to remove the bezel, which is the part around the screen. I use a tool from iFixit. It's like a mini crowbar. I just usually feel around the screen until I can find a point where I can insert it. With the 5559, it's sometimes difficult to go underneath the screen. As you can see, I'm having trouble getting in underneath. So what I like to do sometimes is I grab these picks. So these are things that I can use to hold open things that I want to go back closed. So I feel around the edge of the screen for a place where I can maybe get pull it apart a bit. Usually the top of the screen is a good place to go. But right now, okay, so if you heard that, that was a bit of a snap. So now I have it off a bit. So there's a bit of space for me to put this pick. So I put it in, and what I do is grab another tool. You usually want to use plastic so you don't damage the plastic of the computer. And you start to pull it off. So I'm pulling with my fingers. Because again, my fingernails are softer than the plastic that I'm working with. I'm going to try to go around the edge as evenly as I can in order to not break the plastic. Okay, so a problem with the 5559 is that there's a lot of glue. So as you can see, it's coming off the edge of the bezel. However, the screen is not coming off at all. And that's because there's actually glue holding it on. So when I get enough of it off, I will begin to start trying to pull the screen off. So if you hear that, that is the sound of the glue coming off here. So I'm going to put this tool here and run it this way. And now, as you can see, as I pull it off now, it comes off a lot easier. Okay, that's because the glue is coming off. Now I'm going to work my way around the edge, trying to be careful not to break any of the clips. If you do break anything, don't worry about it too much because it's bound to happen. It's plastic, and it's unlikely that you'll be able to do a complete repair without anything going wrong. Always hope for the best though. So I'm using my tools to try to remove the glue and then separate things. So as you saw, I ran it by once and it actually didn't come off. So I'm going to do a deeper pass this time. And again, it's sticking, but that's because there's glue. Eventually though, you'll be able to just pull it off. Now these hinges here are very difficult to remove. I usually just jiggle them around with my fingers and eventually they do come off. No tips for that. Just play around with it for a bit. Try to get everything around it off first, and then eventually one will come off, other one kind of just rotate. Now the bezel is off. Now you're going to want to get a screwdriver with a Phillips head, a pretty small head, and you're going to want to remove these 4 screws in order to remove the screen. As you can see, there's also tape here. This is to prevent people from tampering with things, but if your computer's broken, you kind of got to tamper with it, so I recommend removing this tape. And what we do is remove all 4 screws from the 4 corners of the screen. Magnetic tips are helpful so that it holds onto the screw. Getting a parts tray like this is good so you don't get your parts lost or confused. So remove all 4 screws. Right now I'm removing in a random order, and I just managed to drop a screw, but I have an extra somewhere, so that's fine. I have it back here actually. But when you're installing the screen, you want to remove them. Place the screws back in a diagonal fashion in order to completely secure the screen. But because this is just a removal, it's fine if you just remove them in any order. Also, there are these little plastic things on the edge of the screen, and that also holds the screen in, so it's not just the screws holding in, it's also these plastic nubs, which help out. Okay, now that I have all 4 screws removed, I'm going to pull the screen down as if I'm folding the laptop. And you'll see that there is a connector here. There's usually tape also holding it on. Again, I like to use this iFixit tool to go underneath the tape, just so I can lift it up, because my fingernails do not go well with this tape. So I'm going to pull it off, as such. Careful not to rip anything. Okay, now that it's up, there is a little bar right here. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's a little bar, and we need to get it up. So as you can see, I have it up. Now, when you remove the 40 pin, you need to pull straight back or else you might damage the pins. So pull straight back, and it'll come right out. So now, discard your broken screen and grab the new one. Okay, so lay it face down on your keyboard, and now connect the 40 pin. Again, be very careful. Make sure you push it in straight into the connection as to not bend any pins. Once that's in, you want to reinstall this arm to make sure that your connection is secure. Okay, so once you have that done, you can reinstall the tape. Whoops. At this point, best practices dictate that you probably shouldn't turn the screen on, but I like to make sure that the screen I installed is plugged in correctly while I'm screwing things in, so I'm going to plug the computer in and turn it on while I'm screwing back in my 4 things. Okay, so as I said, when you're reinstalling the screws, you want to do diagonals, so I'm going bottom right first, as you can see, and then I'm going to go top left. The rest of the screws can just go in however you please. Okay, after this, you need to remember to remove the little bit of plastic that's covering the screen right now. That's just there to make sure it doesn't get scratched during delivery. Okay, so I like to make sure that my bezel is close by first, and then I'm going to pull off this little bit of plastic. So we'll pull that off the screen. Pull that out. And finally, we have reattached the bezel, usually starting around the hinges because that's the most difficult bit, and then working away with one finger, one hand in the back, and your thumb to install the bottom, and then around the edge, just squeeze, squeeze. Make sure everything's snapped back. Close the lid, make sure everything looks even, and then you're done.